the Bates College Hedge Laboratory, the Lewiston City Hall. There was a proposal by the firm of Coombs at the time. It wasn't chosen. The Orrin Cheney House on Fry Street, the Oak Street School and Oak Street in Lewiston, Callahan Block on Lisbon Street, the Central Maine Hospital, we all know well, the Cora Temple Block, not the Cora Shrine Temple, but the Cora Temple Block on Lisbon Street, the Peck's Department Store on Main Street as well. The Dominican Block. In 1881, Coombs began the design of the Dominican Block on Lincoln Street in Lewiston. The multi-story brick edifice became the center of political, religious, and social life in the area's French-Canadian population, and opened, I thought this was amazing, to some 650 students when it opened in 1883. Here, Coombs employs many of the picturesque elements that we saw in the Oddfellows block, and some of which we saw in the Gough block already. The liveliness of the surface through pattern and shadow, the alternating granite and brick bands and belt courses at the floor lines. We've got them almost as a rusticated stone pattern at the lower level. And again, we have a very strong lintel at the above the primary level of the building, and then the lintels, and then even stretching up, capping off the pilasters, and also at the cornice line as well. There was something interesting as I was looking at it. The central pediment with the scrolling consoles, these sort of scrolls right here on each side of that triangular pediment, clearly derived from an Italian Renaissance ecclesiastical architecture. Coombs, it's interesting, so Coombs takes this division of what is essentially what came from the nave of a church in aisles, that division of three. And if you look down at the floor, we're divided in two. And so he has to layer or somehow resolve this architecture at the top with this down here. And so how he does it is with these pilasters coming down here, resting between the fenestration at that point and also at that point, and this sort of comes to rest on this central pier that rises up, a pilaster that rises up through the center of the building. And at that point, then he transitions. The bays get more defined as you go down below, where the windows actually line up. Here that massing at the top helps mitigate between that pattern and this gable at the top. There is, of course, a Queen Anne influence evident in the building, and you don't necessarily see it in the flat elevation, but these brick masses at the top are almost turret-like in their form, and so they have some influence of that. He was to use this similar style for a music block in Farmington, although it really didn't have quite the same complexity as this building did. And again, that may be the 650 students. And I think we all know the Oak Street Training School, now known as Dingley School of 1890, surely one of the finest examples of Romanesque architecture to be found in Maine, known as the Dingley Building on Oak Street. This two-story structure is both a departure of and an evolution in Coombs' stylistic development. Exploring many of the masonry devices already explored, the granite polychromate, the string courses, the brick relief, and the effort is more substantial and holistic than some of his earlier works. The mass has become more solid with less fenestration and lower, longer proportions. Owing directly to HHR Henry Hobson Richardson, Richardson is credited with creating one of the first uniquely American styles. Admitted as the only second U.S. citizen to attend the École des Beaux-Arts, Richardson turned away from the formalism of the École and toward the Romanesque of southern France, establishing a practice in Boston. He's perhaps most famous for the Trinity Church. He's also well known for a great number of libraries and train stations throughout New England. The example shown here is that of the Crane Public Library in Quincy, Mass., constructed in 1880. The front gable composition shares much in common with the Dingley facade. the 3 arched windows above a recessed arched entry. So again, we have that 3 arch here. We've got the banding at the top, a entry arch recessed with very low spring point, probably some 3 feet or so off of the entrance, and then a conical turret that's engaged onto that gable facade. And again, we see a lot of that here. We have the 3 arches. I think 4 would be awfully difficult to do in a triangular form. But we also have the string courses, the turret that engages on the left-hand side, the recessed arch with very low, squat spring point. Here we have a picture of Coombs' office. This is 1894, so still in that time period from 1880 to 1896. And from left to right is George Coombs, Harry Coombs, so that's his son Harry right here at the table. Then there are 2 unknown draftsmen, these 2 folks here. And then Eugene Gibbs, who is a very talented draftsman, and Harry Wilkinson right here with a watercolor pad. The perspective behind George Coombs, you can see him over here on the far left, is the Mechanics Savings Bank in Auburn, and behind Wilkinson's is that of the Poland Spring House, made out very, very vaguely there. In examining the picture, it was fascinating because the tools of the trade are evident at the time. There's the pen and ink, which several of them are holding. There's the drafting board, which was again used up until a few years ago, and still some used today, although with varying frequency, and mostly just to hold. Maybe the computer sits on the drafting board now. The T-square and triangle are evident. There's a T-square here, and Mr. Gibbs is holding a triangle, and then watercolor paint. It was uncommon. It was common for architects to wear a button vest, a jacket, or a bow tie at the time, and it was always fascinating. Someone explained to me why architects always go around wearing a bow tie, and anyone know the answer to that? You may know the answer.
So your tie doesn't get into the drawing.
In your drawing, right? And so that's why, not because of some stylistic fetish that they have with bow ties. So, and now with the advent of computers, I suppose we'll see less and less of that. In 1896, Coombs invites Gibbs and Wilkinson, the 2 primary draftsmen that he had, to become partners in the firm. There's some speculation that, given the demonstrated skill of these two head draftsmen and the opportunities available at the time, that Coombs may have been averting the possibility that they might leave and start their own firms. Gibbs was 26 at the time. He was educated at Edward Little High School, had been apprenticing with Coombs since the age of 18, so he'd already been there for about 8 years prior to his being offered a partnership.
Excuse me?
Yes.
That Congregational Chapel,
Yep.
is that the one that was on Main Street, or is that the one that is now on High Street?
I don't believe it's the one that was on High Street, but I'll have to research to know if it's the one.
If you're going to do some research, would you also try to find a picture for me?
Yeah, certainly.
Because the Methodist Church First Methodist Church was put on the site of the Congregational Chapel on the corner of Drummond and Main Street, and I'm wondering if that's the same one.
See me after, and we have a listing of where it is and if we have drawings available, and so we can take a look at it.
Thank you.
That's great. There is some speculation that, there we go, moving forward a little bit, that Gibbs was 26, educated at Edward Little High School. Wilkinson, the other draftsman that was holding the paintbrush, was also offered a partnership. He was born in Cornish in 1871 and moved with his family as his father was seeking employment opportunities at the mill. Wilkinson was particularly gifted in his ability to render color perspectives. Wilkinson developed a close personal relationship with two of his clients, one of them Bradford Peck of the Peck department store, and the other one being Hiram Ricker of Poland Spring Fortune. Peck would become well known for one of the first and finest department stores in the country, designed by Wilkinson in 1895. And he was so successful with the department store that